Hey, it's Dave Humpers here from hpylorisymptoms.com. And in this short video, I would really love to explain to you how intestinal parasites can cause not only heartburn and potentially acid reflux, but also all of the symptoms that comprise irritable bowel syndrome or IBS. My team and I have been working with people for a long time now. And one of the things that we find out frequently is that people are walking around with all these common digestive symptoms like bloating, heartburn, diarrhea, constipation, abdominal cramping, excess gas and wind, whether it's belching or bloating, or maybe even farting out the other end. These are really common symptoms that are kind of labeled by the medical system as normal. It's estimated that about 10 to 15% of the Western population has irritable bowel syndrome, which doesn't sound like a lot until you put it into actual terms, because 10% of the UK population where I live would be about 6.3 million people. And wouldn't you agree that that's a hell of a lot of people? Now, we also must remember that according to many experts, gastroenterologists around the world, people like Gerard Mullin, MD, they say that potentially only 10 to 20% of irritable bowel syndrome cases are even reported to the doctor, which means that people are walking around with all these symptoms. They talk to their friends, do you get bloated? Do you get a little bit of heartburn? Yeah, I get that. And word gets around that we all kind of have these symptoms at some time. But the fact is this, I don't get those symptoms anymore. I used to until I found out what was causing them and I eliminated the cause. The main cause of irritable bowel syndrome and heartburn is the food that you put in your mouth. But there's an ancillary or an auxiliary cause, a real additional cause there that goes left unseen, that remains a secret. And that is intestinal parasites. There are dozens of different little critter parasites that can get into your digestive system and cause a whole bunch of trouble down there. Candida is a yeast and fungal organism. You might call it a parasite in some respects. You've got different bacteria that can overgrow in your digestive system, and you might call those parasites as well. But I really want to focus on specifically what the medical system would term parasites in this video. When they get into your digestive system, the parasites can be very, very, very naughty. Some of them stick to your intestine, some of them drill into your intestine, some of them even invade the cells in your intestine, and some of them can even migrate up into your gallbladder and up into your liver as well, where they can cause even more mischief. You may have heard of names like Blastocystis hominis, Cryptosporidium, Giardia, Entamoeba histolytica. They're some of the microscopic parasites that we see frequently when we run our stool testing on clients and patients. As well as the tiny little parasites, we also need to really discuss the worms. The worms are the kinds of taboo parasites. Nobody really wants to talk about them because they're a little bit grotty to talk about. And the worms range from tiny millimeter or 2 millimeter long worms, such as pinworm or strongyloids, all the way up to huge tapeworms, which can literally be tens of feet long, which is not a particularly pleasant thing to think about. I think I've probably seen 2 cases of tapeworm in my clients over the last 7 years or so, and I've seen dozens of pinworms. So the smaller the worm tends to be the more people have it. The bigger ones, you probably don't have one, so don't worry too much about it. But if you run a test, the test may pick it up, maybe 1 in 1,000 cases when we run our testing. Now, whether it's a tiny microscopic parasite or a worm, doesn't matter. They can all cause huge amounts of irritation. Your immune system mounts a response to these bugs, creates a lot of inflammation in the digestive tract, and that creates pain, it creates bloating, creates aches, and possibly even sharp pains and things like heartburn. These parasites also prevent you from digesting and absorbing your food, and they may even steal some of the nutrients from your food as well, and that can leave you malnourished. So if they hang around for a number of months or years, or even decades in some cases, you may find that levels of iron drop and you feel tired. B vitamins might be low. Other minerals like zinc and magnesium might drop down. And you may find that you end up with lower levels of things like the fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. All of these things can happen because you have parasites living in your digestive system. So when someone comes to me and says, Dave, I have irritable bowel syndrome, I say, okay, let's find out what's irritating your bowel. So I help them change their diet, remove some of the foods that we know cause problems, and we run a comprehensive stool test to figure out exactly what is going on and whether there are bad bugs involved in the situation. Unless you run a test, there's really no way of knowing whether you have bad bugs in your system and which ones you do have. And it's very important to know which ones you have, because if you don't, you may not run the correct protocol, whether you are taking antibiotics or herbs. You may not take the right ones, and that might cause even more problems rather than resolving the situation. So I hope all that makes sense. Now, if you'd like to learn more about parasites and about how we deal with them and how we test for them, please visit my website at hpylorisymptoms.com. There's tons of useful information in there about parasites, about irritable bowel syndrome, heartburn, acid reflux, and anything and everything to do with digestive health. My name's Dave Hompes. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.